spent 2 hours on ChatGPT, and I said, can you recommend solar installers that would be a good fit for me? And it gave me 3. And what do you do if you're number 4? What if you do if you're number 5? You're out of luck. No one sells like the founder owner. It's really hard for anybody else in the company to sell like the founder. The number one thing I learned is that I should not be doing the hiring.
So David, in 1999, you sold your 50-person web agency to a major consulting firm and you became a senior partner. I imagine being a senior partner at a massive tech consulting firm is a pretty cushy job with great pay. But you still decided to give it all up in 1992 to risk everything again and build another digital marketing agency from scratch. This agency is now your current agency, Nowspeed. You've been running it for 22 years. You bought 3 other businesses and you have 20 employees. That's incredible. So David, was there a specific moment building Nowspeed where you said, oh shoot, this is a real business now. I need to restructure this, set it up to scale and let it grow?
Brian, great to be here with you. And yes, so many moments like that. I'll see if I can recount a couple of those. Starting Nowspeed in 2003, initially we built up the company doing services directly. I was, selling, delivering, building it all myself, hired the first few employees. And it was a few years later, I really decided to start growing it. And there was a moment where I knew I needed a management team. And that was expensive. So, initially, when you're hiring that first group of people, I was looking for player coaches. I was looking for people who could do the work and manage. And that was good at that time. So when I was, in 3, 4, 5 people, it was great to have someone who could then manage, but also do the work themselves. So I'm looking for really billable people. So that was one big moment for me. And then the other moment was but I still retained all sales. And so the next moment was maybe a few years later where I really decided I needed to delegate sales and started building out the sales team. And that was much harder. I failed at that many times, hiring salespeople, losing salespeople, taking that some function back until probably the last 5 years where I've been able to successfully delegate that more completely. So those are a couple moments. We can dive into any of those if you want, but
so many.
Yeah.
Why was it so hard to build sales teams specifically? I've always heard ops teams, other teams are hard, but I feel like I've heard from a lot of entrepreneurs that sales teams specifically just take forever to figure out.
Well, what I've learned is that no one sells like the founder owner, right? So almost by definition, every founder owner is the best salesperson that there is. And the founders often sell, and I did this myself, you sell differently. You know the product, innately well. You know what it can do, you know what it can't do, and you can promise things that nobody else can promise. You can make discounts happen on the fly. You can add additional services. You can sweeten the deal any way you want. You have a sense of confidence and experience that you bring to the table. It's really hard for anybody else in the company to sell like the founder. So what I ended up doing is hiring people and expecting them to sell like me with the same results that I was having. So I was kind of competing for a while with my salespeople, and I would always find that I was better than them, and I would let them go or they would leave, and I would try to hire somebody else. So I went through that cycle over and over again. And I think that many companies go through that until you get to a place where you can create processes and systems around sales and trust that you're going to have good salespeople who are well-trained who can sell the product or service because it's a great product or service, not just because the founder is charismatic and can make it happen.
And what did you figure out? So you said 5 years ago you cracked it. What did you figure out? Was it these systems? Like, what's an example?
Yeah, I think for me, it was 1,000 little things. So it's first of all, it's hiring the right kind of person. So I was in the early days, I would hire people. I was not a great interviewer. I was not a great person to hire people. And so I would just believe, because I believed in everybody. I believed everybody would be great. And so I believed that because I figured it out, they could figure it out, right? So I would hire people based on enthusiasm or personality or something like that, rather than experience and specific sales characteristics. So I got better at hiring. That's number one. But the other part was really getting better at defining and productizing the service itself, so that you're not selling, the promise of just general services. You're selling a specific package of services. And so it took me a while to very specifically productize the services, make sure we've got pricing, standard proposal material, clear website descriptions, all of that. And then that made it easier to have repeatable sales. And then I guess maybe the third thing is having a very defined target market that the salesperson was going after. Nothing can make a salesperson less successful is if you just tell them, hey, sell to everybody. And we were really selling in the early days, based on inbound leads or networking, right? So the founder owner usually has a good network, and so I could sell to that group of people, and they trusted me. And then, but to have repeatable sales, you need to have a very specific target market. You've got to have salespeople that can go after that market. You've got to have good success in that market. And so when we got all those things put together, it took us a long time. But we've got more repeatable, consistent sales.
Got it. So three things, it sounds like. It's you started looking for different things when you were hiring. You got better at defining the service. So there's less gray area to play in, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then defined your target market a little better. So 2 and 3 sound like if you have a better business, you're going to get better sales, which is amazing. Number 1, we're looking for different things with hiring. And maybe there's a broader question beyond both sales too, is how did your hiring process change over time? Like if you're hiring on enthusiasm or personality, I did that. Like a lot of people do that. What did you learn in interviewing that made you a better interviewer?
Well, the number one thing I learned is that I should not be doing the hiring. So as I built the management team, I delegated hiring to people who were the leaders of the different functions in the organization, and they were much better at finding better candidates with better experience than I was. And so I just realized that was not my strength, and it took me a long time to realize that and just be able to delegate that and make sure. And I realized that if you're let's give you an example, the person who's running our digital marketing services, right, and has to hire somebody to do a function like SEO. If I'm hiring that person, I'm looking for enthusiasm and cultural fit, and somebody who's going to be a great long-term player. The person who's going to work with them, he's got to say, no, Dave, that's interesting, but what I need them to be able to do SEO for a client engagement week 1, hit the ground running, and knock it out of the park. Because if it doesn't go well, they're going to be up nights and weekends fixing it, repairing it, and making it work. And so they're looking for hard skills and deep experience and deep competence, where I might not be as tuned into that. Not that I don't care about that, but I'm not as tuned into that. I'm looking for cultural fit because I'm a step or two away from the actual work. And so the nature of that means that the hiring manager, in our case, did a much better job with hiring the right person than I did. And so that delegation helped us get better people.
Yeah, so it's almost like once you're specialized and once you have specialized functions and kind of the person owning the function is closer to the work and they know what to look for, it's going to be a little better than if someone above. And that may be a good, before we started recording, you had a hot take about flat organizations versus call it structured or more specialized organizations. Is this one of those reasons why you prefer not flat?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's very fashionable right now, especially in tech, to have very flat organizations. So my daughter works for an AI market research company, and I think they've got about 15 people on staff, and everybody reports to the CEO. And so he's the hero. He's got, he makes all the decisions. He makes all the hiring decisions. Everything routes through him, and he loves it that way. So I think that that's very common in organizations. And that allows you to make quick decisions and be able to respond rapidly to situations. And there's some good in that. But what it means is that CEO becomes the bottleneck. And the CEO never has time to work on important problems and solve problems. You end up really working, you've heard the cliche, working for the business versus on the business. I think in my case, if I had everybody working for me, I would constantly be working for the business. I'd be trying to solve every client issue, approve every client presentation, approve every proposal, approve every sales presentation. And if you're doing that as a CEO for a 15, 20, 30 person organization, you have no time to think about strategy, the future, investments, where the business is going, really working on the organization. So yeah, flat, I think, can work if you're maximizing profitability at the expense of, long-term growth. And maybe if you're maximizing like client service in the short term, that can be good because you have maybe you have a CEO who controls quality with an iron fist across everything. Maybe that can work. But I think long-term, you're going to be in a much better position. In my case, anyway, I was in a much better position having competent managers and leaders who can own responsibility for sales and service delivery and let me be free to worry about service enhancements, product evolution, other strategies, things like that.
Yeah. So then a flat organization is better if the CEO is just putting out fires all day and being in the focus on being in the business. A more specialized org is better in your case for working on the business, making more strategic choices.
Yeah, and some CEOs also like being the smartest person in the room. It's not that important to me, but when, and some CEOs they want to be the expert and have a lot of doers, right? And actually that's very common in organizations that have, 3 to 5 people, where you've really got a CEO who's started maybe a service firm, and then they've got some assistants who are doing the work. But when you get to 15 or 20 people, I think you're going to be much better off if you can delegate delivery or service or product responsibility to competent people who can manage the delivery of the work. It's going to be a little more costly in overhead, but you'll gain that back and be able to sleep at night and have a little bit of free time in your life.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that checks. I think I mentioned before of a friend who has a flat, he's at the top and is 17 people reporting into him. And we're now at the time where, okay, you can't take on more clients because you have to restructure into the org that you're talking about. And so we're designing that as we speak. And how, okay, so it sounds like you're not flat, you're more structured or specialized. How is that specialization structured? Like, how do you do, for example, remote versus in person? Like, what are those strategic choices around the org design that you've made?
So when COVID hit, we were 100% in person, and we instantly moved to 100% remote, and we decided to stay there. So we have employees in 3 provinces in Canada, across the U.S. So we're 100% remote, and we're very comfortable in that environment. In terms of like structure, we've got, as a digital agency, we divide our service delivery into 2 halves. One is creative and dev, website design development, project-oriented work, and the other is marketing services. So ongoing retainer-oriented marketing services like SEO and PPC and advertising, things that we have to show up week in, week out to do. So those are the 2 sides of the organization. I've got leaders in both of those groups. And then we have, traditional functions like sales and accounting that have to happen. That's also report to me. But basically, I have 4 direct reports, and then they have individuals working for them in most of those departments who run all of our services.
Did you have to restructure like your culture, your ways of working, any of that kind of stuff when you went fully remote?
Yeah, yeah, that was a big change. I say that, but at the same time, as a digital agency, we do all of our work through tools like Zoom and Teams with our clients, and so we were very comfortable in that environment. So it wasn't that big a change for us. I think culturally we had to, just get used to seeing people on Zoom. We initially tried to do, like fun events on Zoom every Monday or something like that, and then people just started working together more naturally. One of the things that we had incorporated is an annual meeting in Boston. So we fly everybody into Boston, where I'm located, and we do a 3-day planning meeting here. And I think that's really helpful. People get to see each other at least once a year and interact. But the funny thing is, when I see people in person, it doesn't feel like I only see them once a year. I feel like I see them every day because we're seeing each other on Zoom. And, one of the things we did, which seems quaint now, but it wasn't so quaint back in 2000, is we just insisted that everybody's on camera all the time. So back in the day, there was this whole debate about whether we show up on camera or not. But, all of our meetings are always on camera like this. And so that just has this sense of, we're all seeing each other every day in meetings with clients, and we just show up as ourselves.
Did you have to do anything different in terms of like rules of communication? Like I imagine you guys had hit some roadblocks in terms of communication styles and that kind of stuff. Did you have to change any rules around that?
I don't recall having to change a lot of rules about that. I think, we had to encourage people to wear a shirt, like don't show up in like some, in your pajamas or something. So, there were a couple conversations we had to have about people with that, or have a, not an inappropriate background. Like I think, early on we had a woman who was working for us, and her partner was in the background, playing a video game, like while she's on a client call, and like with some violent video game. And we're like, you can't do that, so these days it all seems like common sense. But back in the day, a few years ago, people were doing crazy things, on on video calls. So, but I think we've all settled into a pretty normal culture, especially for us. We're on video calls. I mean, I'll have like 6 or 8 a day, so it's pretty normal.
Right. And so, how do you decide in terms of your like where work goes and that kind of stuff? How do you decide what's in-house versus outsourced, or what's onshore versus offshore? Like, how do you make those decisions?
So we make the decision to do almost everything in-house for our core service delivery. So where we sell services like digital advertising, PPC, SEO, website design, we had maybe 10 years ago, we experimented with outsourcing, web design, when, we would do the marketing, but we didn't have anybody doing web design. And so we would outsource that, and that caused a lot of problems. And so just the quality, the communication, the timeliness, it was tough. And so when we moved that in-house, I actually bought an agency at that time to take that all in-house. The quality became much better. We were able to create our own processes and systems. So to do that. So we try to do things in-house as much as possible. Now, in-house is not for everybody. I mean, we sell fractional marketing services. So I would not say to everybody, you should do everything in-house. So, for us, we sell, let's say, an SEO program. It might be 10 or 20 hours a month, time sliced of an expert to a client. They don't have to hire somebody and pay them for 168 hours a month when they really need 10 hours a month of expert SEO time. So I think it can really make sense in some cases. And there are a few contractors that we add now and again around content or when we need some overflow services, but generally we try to do everything in-house. One of the things that's strange in my industry is that marketing services, if you go to their website, everybody says they do everything. Even a 3-person marketing agency will look exactly like mine. We say that we do everything. And that just can't be true. And so they're outsourcing things. And I think that in many cases, the client doesn't get the service or the quality that they should because you're going through many layers of service. But yeah, we try to do everything we can for clients directly.
And if someone's just like someone listening to this is deciding, okay, do I outsource or do I do this in-house? Do you have a framework or buckets of work that you think are good for say getting fractional marketing support versus bringing a marketer in-house? Like how do you make that decision?
Well, I think if you're talking about doing marketing, so like for clients, like if you're trying to do marketing services versus your core, are you talking about doing marketing, or are you talking about your core service delivery, whatever that is? Like if you're a law firm
Yeah,
or accounting firm or whatever.
yeah. So a lot of so for example, a lot of folks listening to this may run an e-com brand,
Yep.
right? Yeah, let's go with that as an example. Um, how do you decide which functions you do in-house or you go to an agency for?
Well, when it comes to marketing, I would say you need someone in-house that can own responsibility for the strategy and the direction of it. So I think that's really helpful. Outsourcing that is difficult unless you hire like a fractional CMO or fractional, ongoing consultant. So that's definitely possible. But I think it's very helpful to have someone in-house that, especially if you're an e-com brand where marketing is critical, you've got to have somebody who really understands it. But then there are specific functions that you do in marketing. And marketing has become very technical and very specialized. So you might need to do SEO, and you might need to do digital advertising on Google or on Meta or on social media, and get video production and do organic social on uh, you know on Reddit or Meta or any number of platforms. And then there's the technical side: website design, development, graphics, video. So there's all these specialties, right? Specialties. And it's very difficult to hire, if you're small, one full-time person who can do all those things well. It's extremely difficult. And so, the creative person you hire to do your videos, you say, oh, well, maybe you could figure out how to do advertising management and learn Google Ads at the same time. Oh, sure. And then maybe you could also figure out HubSpot and my CRM and manage that. Yeah, maybe. And then, oh, could you handle WordPress administration and these plugin updates for me on a weekly basis? Okay. Yeah, I could try. And suddenly you create a giant mess. And it's easy to mess up all of that. I mean, just in one area like SEO, SEO is an incredibly detailed business. You're trying to optimize a set of keywords, say 20 keywords, then you come up with a couple hundred variations, and then you want to SEO optimize that if you're an e-com brand on hundreds of web pages, each with 1,000 words and 5 tags. Like, is the person who's doing your video shoot going to do that and write the social media post in the afternoon? No way. So, all of those things are specialties. And so it often makes sense to work with an agency like ours where you can time slice, you get 10 hours or 20 hours of specific experts' time in each of these areas to do a great job, rather than hiring one generalist to do a mediocre job in all these areas.
So let's use that as an example. So if you ideally you have someone in-house who knows your brand, knows where you're going, knows your strategy, and can kind of guide you have a marketer in-house, whether that's you hire a marketer full-time or you hire a fractional CMO, but that's yours.
Yep.
They know you like the back of your hand. But then for all the specialist things that need to happen, so they're the coordinator, and then there's all the specialist activities that need to happen that you think makes sense to have agencies kind of do, and then they're like the agency manager.
Yeah, I think when you're small, I think that makes a lot of sense because the agencies can time slice that. If you're big, right? If you're a $200 million company, then you've got a department, right? You've got an advertising specialist and an SEO specialist and a content team and a web team. You've got a whole department. But when you're small, you really have to do all the same functions, but you don't want to hire, when you're 15 people, you don't want to hire 8 people in your marketing department to be experts in all this, and so our model is really for the cost of one FTE. You get all those specialties and you get a team of 6 people who are experts in all of those areas. So that, and that works for a lot of, for a lot of small to mid-sized companies. It's much more cost effective. And to get those experts from an agency. Now, you could do the same thing with contractors. You could just hire a lot of contractors who do that. But then the coordination and the communication is on you. And that's really difficult. So, so it's often easier if you do it through an agency.
Yeah. Tell me a bit more about so there's the agency option where you have a fractional CMO overlooking the agencies, or you have a fractional CMO overlooking contractors.
Yep, those are two very common options. Or you hire a generalist and you train them forever, and by the time you get them trained, they leave, and then you train another one. So that's, in my opinion, that's the hardest way to make it work.
Yeah, for sure. What are the pros and cons of of choosing the agency model versus the contractor model?
I think the agency model, and I'm a little bit biased because I'm an agency, is dramatically simpler. You get an account manager or a strategist who's responsible for creating the coordination and the integration between all those functions. You also get, if someone leaves, like the contractor gets a job, right? So they leave and they go on maternity leave or something like that. If you're with an agency, the agency has depth of resources generally. If you pick a agency of more than 2 or 3 people, they've got some depth. And so if someone leaves, they put in the new person. So you're not really hiring a contractor with an agency, you're hiring a service function. And they're investing in processes and systems and methodology and some technology. They bring all the tools to the table, as opposed to a contractor. You'd say, well, hey, HubSpot, can you figure out Salesforce? Yeah, maybe I could try. The agency has all the tools, and they've got people who are trained on them, and they own all the training costs to keep those people up to date. So the agency, it may be a little more expensive. It may end up being cheaper. But either way, I think it's dramatically easier to create an integrated marketing function with an agency as a small company.
That makes sense. And then, so for your own structure, you have a leader. So you have 20 folks, a leader overlooking each specialized department. And then what about, so below the leader, you must have executionists, doers, call it what you like. What do you do with those? So imagine your options. You've got offshore, you've got AI, and you've got kind of local but remote. How do you balance all those options for the execution layer?
So in our model, they're all employees. So they're all hired, trained, and managed by Nowspeed employees. So we do that to maintain quality and consistency. So we want them all trained on our methodology, and we want to be responsible for their work and the results. And so that's number one. So in terms of AI and agents, we're investing heavily in leveraging AI to support them and make them more efficient, have them deliver faster, and have them deliver higher, more volume for what the clients want. So we're investing a lot of tools, but we've always invested in tools. I mean, our whole, over the last 20 years, think of all the marketing tools that existed in 2003. Not many, right? And now there's thousands of marketing tools around. So AI is a huge enabler in a brand new way, but we've always invested in technology and tools, and we're going to continue to leverage AI as much as possible.
Yeah, and how are you guys investing in AI today? What are you focused on?
We're doing 2 major initiatives. One is around GEO, so generative engine optimization. So this is a service offering. So this is customer facing. So GEO is about, well, so let me just take a step back. So in our view, the buying process has changed dramatically. It used to be 2 years ago that people would search on Google with keywords, and they would find results, a number of websites. They would go to websites and do research and find the product or service that they're looking for, and then kind of contact them and go further. Now with products like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Claude, people are doing all of that buying research on the LLMs. So you might have a long conversation with an LLM. Like I did this just recently. I was looking for solar for my house, right? So rooftop solar. And, a few years ago, I would have gone to a sales rep and gotten a proposal, and, he would have done like the analysis of how many watts I need and how much battery backup, blah, 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 that I need, and give me a proposal.
Right.
This time, what I did is I spent 2 hours on ChatGPT, and I had this deep conversation about, like here's how many light bulbs I have, and here's how much my refrigerator and the wattage, and what's the battery backup needed. And so I learned a ton, and I had this whole interaction. And I said at the end, can you recommend solar installers that would be a good fit for me? And it gave me 3. And what do
It's
you do if you're
incredible.
number 4? What if you do if you're
Right.
number 5? You're out of luck. Because I just had this deep conversation. I'm going to trust this thing completely to give me the right vendors for me, right? And so that's, the buying process has dramatically changed. And so what we want to do is help, number 4, 5, and 6 on that solar installers list become visible in the LLMs. And so we built a whole methodology around that. We call it generative engine optimization. And we're doing a lot to help, companies build the content, build the business authority they need to be visible there. So that's number 1. I can talk more about that. The second initiative that we're working on is AI agents, and we just released our first SEO AI agent, which automates the process of keyword research and meta tag rewriting to help increase the speed and quality of our SEO work.
And are these offerings to folks like to client facing, or what about kind of in-house your own AI agents to run your business?
So the SEO AI agent is primarily first for Nowspeed team members. So we're using that internally on our own work, and then we're also going to make it external facing as well. So we'll use it initially as a lead generation tool, so people can go out and we've got a landing page. You can optimize 10 pages for free and see what that's like, and then contact us to help to help you do the rest of your SEO work. So but it's a good tool. It's kind of cool because it takes what we used to do. What used to take us weeks, literally weeks, to do keyword research. I don't know if you've ever done an SEO engagement, but it takes, keyword research, optimizing and rewriting all the tags for your website. And now it takes like 15 minutes. So
It is incredible.
it's pretty amazing. And so, our clients are interested in speed, quality, and price. And this helps us do a better job in all 3 of those areas.
It's amazing. We've been reworking our own agents in-house, and it runs our operations now, not entirely end to end, but it's just totally transformed how we do business.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we're working on that for SEO first, and then we'll roll that out to all of our other key services over time.
And so what's your biggest focus kind of looking forward? So imagine 12 months from now, you look back at Nowspeed. What does it look like?
So we're making a big investment, as I mentioned, in AI agents. And so that's really our big focus. So we want to take our team members and help them be more strategic with our clients. So our people are going to go deeper into strategy and make sure that we're focused on the right goals. So there'll be I'll use SEO as an example. Think about like what's your SEO strategy? What's the content that will enable that strategy? What are the results that you should expect from that strategy? They're going to do that, and then they're going to run these agents, just like they're running some of the software today. Instead, they'll run the agents. They'll get results. They'll approve and review those results, and then they'll manage the implementation of that. And we hope that that's much, much faster. So we're going to do that. If I look 12 months ahead, I want to do that in SEO, PPC, managing websites, social media, email marketing. We're going to have agents really in all those areas to help make us more effective, faster, and deliver more for our clients.
And what's the bottleneck to get there so far?
It takes time to develop all that, and it's expensive. So it's not like creating a prompt and having a person manage it through that. So you've got to have systems. You got to really think through your systems and process in great detail. So it's not, it's really, you know, I used to think that, I still do think that we have the Nowspeed operating system for how we do business. We've got policies and procedures manuals. We've got playbooks for every one of our services. We've got checklists for everything that we do. So that's all good. But it's different to have a checklist than it is to take that and turn it into an AI workflow. So you've got to go deeper. You've really got to engineer in detail the processes that you're running. Because when it becomes a workflow, then, you know, a person, if they're running it, they can iterate the prompt till they get something that they know is good. If it's a workflow that you're going to deliver as the end result, it's got to be engineered properly. So it just takes time and effort to do that. So we're putting in that time, and hopefully we'll have something good.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. Well, that's great, David. And so, where can people find you?
Our website, nowspeed.com, there's a lot of resources there. I just put together a guide to GEO if you want to learn more about that. We've got the free trial of our SEO AI agent. You can learn more about that there. But it's got a lot of resources. You can also check me out on LinkedIn, connect with me there. I'm at David Reske, so I'm easy to find.
Amazing. This has been super fun. Thanks, David. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Great talking to you today.